All right, guys. I just got done watching the original Back to the Future from 1986, and God, how do you even start to talk about this movie? Look at me. I got a big old grin on my face. Uh, what do you say? I'll say this: it holds up so well after all these years. 25 years later, this movie stands up to the best of today. Not only in the story department, even the story or like special effects and shit still stand up. I think there was one goofy special effect when his hand starts to disappear. It looks like the old film special effects where they make stuff disappear or look transparent like that. But like the shit where like the fucking DeLorean is going through time and it's like sparks and shit. It looked fucking good. Let me catch my breath here. But just it holds up so well and it's about as close as you could get to perfect. I fucking loved Back to the Future as a kid and I love it even more now. And actually, when I was a kid, the first one was my favorite. I always loved the second one because it had a bunch of time travel shit in it. We'll see what happens here as I go through these ones, but right now, I appreciate Back to the Future more now than I did back in, when I was like 5 years old or whatever. It's just a great film. Like, there's just certain movies where there's something about them. There's a certain magic to them. And this movie has that magic, and it captures that '80s magic, and also like the magic. There's a little bit of nostalgia because I saw this when I was, my childhood. But there's something more to Back to the Future that, I mean, shit. There's a lot to Back to the Future that makes it good, a lot. But let's pretend you haven't seen it. Um, I mean, if you're from my generation, you've seen this movie. If you hadn't, that's fucked up. But it's a story of Marty McFly, high school kid who has a friend who is a professor, Doc Brown, played by Christopher Lloyd. And, the doctor invents a time machine made out of a DeLorean. And, so many fucked up things, but he ends up going back in time and spending a week with his parents when they first met. And when he goes back, he messes things up, so he has to try to fix everything and get it so that they still meet each other in the end, and so he'll still exist. But I mean, I can just go through it. So many fun things. First, that the time machine is a fucking DeLorean, and Doc Brown's like, I figure if you're gonna go back, or if you're gonna have a time machine, you might as well travel in style. And then it needed 1.21 gigawatts. I don't even know if gigawatts is real, but it needed 1.21 gigawatts of power and it had to go 88 miles per hour to go through time, and um, he had to steal like plutonium from Libyan terrorists. It's like this total like crazy fucked up dark element that you wouldn't like when you're a kid wouldn't stick with you. So they show up, or they're testing this stuff out. The Libyan terrorists show up. They shoot Doc Brown. Marty McFly, played by Michael J. Fox, he jumps in the car and he ends up going back, 30 years before to 1955, when his parents were in high school. And it's just what I liked when I was a kid. I liked the second film because it had all this time travel shit. Here, it's not so much the time travel shit as it is like a fish out of water story with this kid that's in a time that he doesn't fit in. But even more than that, just this awesome idea of a kid going back and seeing what his parents were like when they were kids, and then playing a part in like his parents getting together, and it makes for great drama and importance because you know if they don't get together, he's not going to exist. So he's trying to save his own existence by setting up a romance. Just a stroke of genius in the plot there. Just really cool, really fun. But there are so many things that are fun about this movie. But I'm just gonna be like talk about little things that. Another thing about this movie is it's so fast paced. The cool thing about it too, I'm gonna be going all over the place. I'm sorry, but the movie like before he gets back to 1985 and before or 1955 and before the fucked up thing is 1985 is almost 30 years in our past now. Think about that. But before he even the time travel plot or anything kicks in, it takes the time to set up Marty McFly and his parents and his family and the characters. How many movies do that now? Like you're giving a like the movie's short. It's like an hour and a half. It doesn't waste any time, but at the same time, it gives itself time for in the first 20 minutes to introduce Marty McFly, his high school kid, his parents. His dad's a pushover, his mom's a drunk, his brother works at like McDonald's or something. He's like a fast food worker. His sister doesn't get any dates. They set up the characters. They takes time to set up where he is now so that it's meaningful when he goes back and sees what they were like before and how he changes things. It's just that's really cool. So many things are cool about this. Just one thing that stood out though, this movie is so heavy on product placement. I don't know if they did it more obvious back in the day or what, but it would be like the fucking DeLorean spins out and the fucking tire comes right up to the camera and Goodyear. So much product placement. You know, Burger King. I'm trying to think of all the companies that you see in this movie. It's ridiculous. Pepsi, lots of Pepsi. Pepsi free, Diet Pepsi. Um, what other product? There's so much product placement in it. Um, the DeLorean itself is product placement in a way, but I don't know how I feel about product placement. To me, it doesn't really bother me that much because it's like, dude, you have products in the real world, and it's cool to me to see like now going back like what a Diet Pepsi can looked like back then. It back in 1985 or 86 when this movie came out, it was current, and so people were just like whatever, and if they even noticed it at all. But now it's like, oh, that's cool. But they even use the product placement in a cool way, like when they're in Hill Valley, like in like the commons or whatever in the center of town. Like in 1985, you see like the Miller Lite truck in the background. And you see what that looks like. But then he goes back in time and you see like a Miller High Life truck in the background. So like even though it's in there, they use it in cool ways. It doesn't bother me at all. But so many cool things about this movie. If you haven't seen it, just go see it now. But from here on out, there will be like spoilers and shit. But he goes back and he discovers his dad is just like this really nerdy guy that wants to be a writer, but he's getting picked on by this guy Biff, and there's no way he's ever gonna meet this girl. And you find out the way that they met is his dad got hit by uh, her dad's car, and like they nursed him back to health, but it ends up getting screwed up because Marty jumps in. He ends up being the one that she like is falling for, so he has to fix it. And like, I mean, I'm sure my explanation of that sucked. It's been a long night, but just the idea that this kid goes back in time and his mom is falling for him, it's great. And then he has to somehow figure out a way for her to fall for his dad so he could exist. Um, and he goes back and meets Doc Brown. And what the fuck can I say, man? This movie is just full of magic and fun. It's fast paced, doesn't waste anything. Funny moments, cool plot, cool music. Like, there's so many cool things. Like, what I was like not taking notes during the movie, but I was sort of quoting shit on YouTube. Oh yeah, there's one part and he's in the diner and he's sitting there and he orders something and like it zooms out and you see like his dad sitting next to him and Biff walks in and he's like McFly and they both turn around and then you see like his dad getting fucking bullied by Biff and then Biff leaves and one of the cooks comes over and he's like, hey, don't you know if you let people walk over you now they're gonna walk over you the rest of your life? And then McFly's like, or he's like, I'm gonna be something someday. I'm like, blah blah blah. McFly's like, you're gonna be the mayor, because the guy that gives his dad that advice becomes the mayor. Or like, there's a scene where he goes over to his mom's house, or it's after he gets hit by the car, and like they're trying to take care of him, and he's at his mom's house. He's like eating dinner with their family, and there's so many like little funny things in there. Like, we got a TV. You have a TV, Marty? Or Calvin, or I don't know what they were calling him, because she thought he was Calvin because his underwear says Calvin Klein. He's like, yeah, we got two of them. And the little kid who was the older brother in the one years, he's like, that's bullshit. Nobody has two TVs. Are you rich? But like in that scene, Marty McFly he goes over and he sees like a baby in its crib, and it's his uncle Joey who's in prison at the beginning of the film. He walks over to the crib. He's like, "So you're my uncle Joey? Better get used to those bars, kid." uh, I don't know, man. Like I kept quoting it over and over on Twitter as I was watching it. And then he's coaching his dad how to like stand up. He like sets up this thing where he's gonna try to take advantage of uh, Lorraine, his mom, in a car, and then his dad would show up and beat him up. And he's like, "Do you really think I should swear, Marty?" And he's like, "Yes, definitely. God damn it, George, swear." uh, and then that scene later in the car where like, um, he finds out that his mom was a bit of a slut or whatever, different than how he thought of her. And she whips out the bottle of booze and she's like, "Yeah, I stole it from my parents. You want some?" And he's like, "You shouldn't drink." She's like, "What are you, a total square?" He's like, "No, I just think that you're gonna regret it later in life." And it's just like awesome. Like they have all these touches like from the beginning of the movie that you don't think much of, but then later on, it's like you see how they became the people they are when they were kids, and he's trying to change it for them, and it's just really cool. Um, and then there's the scene where he gets on stage and he's performing. There's so many fucking little things in this movie, man. If you've seen it, you know what I'm talking about. Like so many just awesome moments. Uh, hey, remember this guy Marvin Berry, one of the people in the band at the high school prom? Remember that new sound I was telling you about? He's calling Chuck Berry his cousin, and it's Marty McFly doing Johnny Be Good. He's like, "Here, man," and then Marty McFly's like, it's an oldie where I come from. And then he goes in like this crazy metal solo, and at the end, like everyone's like staring at him. He's like, "Well, maybe you guys aren't ready for that, but your kids are gonna love it." I don't know, man. So many perfect things about this movie that it's just I don't even know where to begin. And then just the ending when he finally gets back to the future. His family's changed for the better, and like everyone's more positive. Like his brother that was working at fast food, he's now working in an office. Just so much fun and such a perfect movie with so many quotes and just never a dull moment. I'm running out of time here, but I really love Back to the Future. It's 5 stars for me. I think it is for most people. I don't know. I'm sure there was more I could have said, but it's great. Watch it. Love it.